COVID-19 response. So naturally, what was the impact of this? And as we said, obviously, the first area was in the economy. We are currently in recession again. From the first quarter of last year, where we had a marginal growth of 1.87, we went into a deep a negative growth of 6.1% in the second quarter. That is reflective of the lockdown that was experienced during that period. And as the lockdown was lifted, obviously, even though we still have negative growth, it certainly was a marked improvement over what we had in the second quarter. So in the third quarter, we had a negative growth of minus 3.62%. We are still awaiting the figures for the fourth quarter to see how the economy fared. But clearly, we expect it to be much better than what we had in the third quarter. The impact on the economy was quite significant and on various sectors. What I'm showing here is a composition of Nigerian GDP between the end of 2019, fourth quarter of 2019, and the composition at the third quarter, end of third quarter of 2020. The first one showed you the composition of the various sectors, or the various 19 sectors that have been tracked, and now as compared to end of third quarter. As you can see, almost most of the sectors in red shrunk as a percentage of the economy. I mean, the only areas that grew, that gained, were probably crop production, food, public admin, and probably area of cement. All other areas as a percentage of the economy shrunk during that period. Trade was the most significant one coming down. Crude oil, petroleum, real estate, professional services, construction, even textile, education, livestock. You can see most areas had a lower contribution to Nigeria's GDP by the end of the third quarter. That is reflecting what has happened. The next slide is now telling you what has happened in terms of the sectoral growth, to now see which sectors actually grew and which ones actually had a deficit. Clearly, the growth areas were in information technology. That goes without saying, because obviously, if you have to implement work from home, you all have to use data. Communication now became quite key. So obviously, there was a massive growth in information technology. Obviously, essential utilities also had growth. That is water supply, also public admin, also financial services grew, construction, and also agri. The most affected area, which had the largest deficit, was obviously in transportation and logistics, which shrunk by almost 43%. That was followed by accommodation and food. That goes without saying that clearly, if hospitality businesses have been shut down, there's no way they were going to grow. Followed by education, schools were told to close. Then you had real estate, mining, and like I said, because you all had to stay at home, trade was severely affected. Obviously, area of entertainment and arts, because again, work from home and the fact that most entertainment areas were shut down were also grossly affected. So that shows you what had really happened, and it is quite significant. You cannot have an economy in which over half of its sectors had negative growth. It will obviously have impact on businesses and what we all do. And what I've done here is to now give you a table of the impact on business operations along different areas. For obviously looking at the market segments, household income was negatively impacted by the lower economic activities. I think the only areas that you could see had significant investment during that period were those that were operating in health and pharmaceutical sectors, because clearly it started as a health issue, and clearly a lot of investment went into the healthcare sector. So for those who are in that area, clearly a lot of investment went into that particular area. In terms of marketing, because obviously people were not moving around, customers were expecting discounts since the household income was significantly affected. Customers obviously expected that people too should lower their prices. If you remember that period, there were even a lot of call, even for the areas like even the power sector, to give a moratorium or give a reduction in the bills that they were charging. And in most cases, even if you're a landlord, your tenant expected you to either defer rental payment, or in some cases find a way of reducing rent. And invariably, every brand obviously came out with a marketing strategy to communicate empathy for the consumers and everyone.